Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to our 7 secrets to successful selling. I am looking forward to this. Thank you for joining us. I guess at first, if you could just confirm that you could hear me by giving me a thumbs up or raise your hand, that would be lovely, please. Thank you. If you could just raise your hand, that would be great. Being heard loud and clear. And then secondly, I guess just whereabouts you're listening from or where you are from. Just in the chat, pop in where you're listening from at the moment. I don't mean your car or your office, but just whereabouts. There we go. Kenilworth, Warwick. Thank you very much. I should say Coventry, Poole, Birmingham, Sheffield, Banbury. Great to see you. So from our lovely makerspace. Wonderful. So yes, please do jump on the chat. I've got Lindsay with me who will be just monitoring that as well. Please throw under Todd's muscles. Excellent. Please throw any questions in there at any time. Also, if you do want to come on and ask me a question directly, you can direct message me or we'll unmute you and you can. So please be as active as you'd like on the chat. It would be great to get some feedback so that I can get more and answer exactly what you would like to hear. So sales. I do love this quote from Zig Ziglar. Sales, look, we've got to stop selling, we've got to start helping. And a lot of people have key thoughts going on around sales when we're doing it. And I love looking at, just bear with me one moment while my slide deck, just make sure I do it. Sales is a mixture. A lot of people think it's all about technique. It really isn't. Technique forms a small part of this. Yes, we can teach that really easily, actually, but it's about the attitude and the behaviors are normally the things that hold people back the most when we talk about sales. It's how we go about it rather than the technique. You see, we can have all the technique in the world, but if we wake up with the wrong attitude and we think today is going to be a lousy day, or I'm not going to win this deal, or it will breed the wrong behaviors for you. So it's a triangle of technique, attitude, and behaviors. And today I'm going to discuss some of those as all of them as I go through our 7 tips or secrets to successful selling. So where does it all start? Well, it starts with beliefs. And it starts with belief and beliefs. So a question for you, just jump on the chat. If I said to you, think of an out-and-out salesperson, someone who just an out-and-out salesperson. What do you think, what words spring to mind about them? Pushy, rude, pushy. Just let's see them. Confidence, extrovert, persistent, pushy. Full, thank you very much. That one. Full of sort. I can't quite read it. Not genuine, knowledgeable, confident and interested, thick-skinned, passionate, outgoing and forward, confident. Now, what's unusual here is the amount that I've received that are positive. Because normally when I ask this question, and I think if you think about an out-and-out salesperson, often I'll get arrogant, pushy, in it for themselves. Yes, driven, but what drives them? Is it being in it for themselves? And if you want to think about what your beliefs around salespeople are, it's going to be molding your behaviors. You see, those of you who put pushy on it, those of you who put full of whatever that last word was, S***T, you're going to be having these limiting beliefs that hold you back. So number one, we need to start thinking around what your beliefs are of a salesperson. And how we go about this is I want you to think about your sales philosophy. Now, we've got there just what a sales philosophy is. And if I'm talking leadership, I'll always talk about your leadership philosophy. But within sales, what is your philosophy around sales? Because this is going to shape and change our behaviors that we might have and help us with our beliefs. There's one that I document. I follow my system and I'm disciplined. I do whatever it takes as I'll never let down my family and team. I'm going to help every business I come across and open to all people. I'm confident and in charge. I'll connect, I'll coach, I'll close. I prepare, I practice, I'm present. All of these things come through so that I can reiterate them to ourselves at all times. I prepare, I stay connected, I position on certain things, but it's a document that I've written out which shapes my behavior. And also it's important that if you've got a team of salespeople, that you have this sales philosophy, this kind of rules of the game, so that we all behave in the same way. But this is what will help us with our attitude and our behaviors as we go through it. So I want you to just think about those limiting beliefs that you might have. Also, how do you come into a meeting, and are you always 100% confident that this meeting is going to go well? It's that belief when we come in and we're thinking, well, I'm not sure about this one. It isn't going to go well. It's very rare that you've gone into a meeting that's gone fantastically well when you haven't thought it might. So we want to really plan for those meetings and make sure not only have you got beliefs that get you to the best position, but you also have a belief, confidence. Many people put confidence in there. But it's interesting about confidence. Where do people get confidence from? When they meet you, where do they get confidence from? You see, words only equate to 7% of our communication. The voice is 38%, so tonality is very important. So if we're talking in sales and we're just a bit concerned about how this might go, and you position on investment like this, they're not going to have confidence. And the other one is body language. Body language is 55% of any communication. So how do you go in and how do you hold yourself? If you're on Zoom, what is your setup? Are you putting yourself into the very best environment to be confident? Or if you're on Teams or virtually? And do you struggle if you think it's face-to-face? Are you better face-to-face? I like to talk about being face-to-face on the computer or face-to-face in front of someone. But if you change that thought, prior to COVID, I did virtually no sales online. I now do virtually no sales in person. It's all done like this. And yes, we had to learn how to do it and get the confidence in it. And I actually prefer this. I prefer this because I can just see every little movement on someone's face, so I can learn to read them. Have you ever thought, just moving on to number two, types of salespeople. Have you ever thought what type of salesperson you are? Have you ever thought about that? What are the types of salespeople out there? I'm going to ask you in a minute where you currently fit as we go through this. So we get one type of salesperson, the order taker. Think of a travel company that you ring up and they just say, hello, what holiday would you like to book? And you book it. But there's no advice taken. We wait to be told what they would like to buy. We go out and we're talking to a client and it's almost like, what would you like to order? Are you an order taker? Are you a product pusher? You ring up a travel company and you say, hello, I'm interested in Outer Mongolia. And they say, all you need to be doing is the Maldives. No, I'm not really interested in the Maldives. The Maldives are brilliant. You need to be doing the Maldives. Fantastic at this time of year. And they talk nothing other than the beach and the sea. But you don't want that. You want a touring holiday. But they keep pushing this one product to you. You might see it if you walk in to buy a TV. You can tell by my age, I'd walk in and say, could I have one that connects to my VHS recorder, please? And they, well, no, you don't want that. You want a smart TV. This is what you've got to do. I'm thinking, no, I don't want that. And then we get the overpromiser. This is often where people don't want to go in sales. And I couldn't agree more. That person who kind of says anything to get the sale. And these are the three areas that we need to avoid. The type of person that we would like to become, the type of salesperson, is the problem solver. You see, if we talk to people and all we want to do, as Zig Ziglar said at the beginning, is help people. We identify their problem through either pain or through aspirational, and then we look to provide a solution. The thing with this, though, is we've got to identify the emotion behind it. We have to identify emotion, not just transactions. You see, a buying decision, 80% of a buying decision is based on emotion, and 20% is on logic. What actually happens is we buy emotionally and we justify it logically. So we've got to make sure that this sales isn't just a transactional relationship that goes on. But where do you all think you sit? Do you think you sit in the problem-solving category at the moment? Do you think you ask the right questions? Whereabouts would you say that you sit at the moment? Problem solver, great. So in that instance, I'm aware of that person. They'll be solving mobilities, problem solving. Great, all in the right sort of area. Yeah, working towards problem solving. A listener, very, very strong. So when you're solving a problem though, good. Solutions-based and consultative. Very good. Now, when we're solving a problem, what we need to make sure though is that the person that you're talking to really understands their problem. You see, sometimes the problem that surfaces isn't actually the real problem. I might have had someone recently, well, I have in a recent session, someone just said to me, oh, I don't know how to grow my business, for instance. I need investment to grow it. But actually, when we started talking about it, it wasn't investment they needed. They didn't organize their time well enough. So the problem they thought was the growth, but it was actually around the time element and how we could offload some of their low value tasks to give them the freedom to solve, to go out and sell. And then the other thing is, how many of you, can I just check a yes, no on this, a simple Y or N? How many of you have a repeatable sales process that you've got documented with stages throughout? Just a straight yes or no. Okay, a kind of, thank you for being so open, a kind of is a no. So yes, yes, no, no, no. Quite a few no's coming in through here. And this is one of the things that's an absolute key to selling, is a repeatable sales process. It's documented but not stuck to. That's one of the key aspects that we need to do, is make sure we stick to it. And it's something that I'm a bit passionate about, actually, a bugbear of mine in business, is that people come into business and they work so hard at their product or their service and how they're going to deliver it. And then you say, so how are you going to sell it? And it's kind of, well, I'll wing it. I've got the process of exactly how I'll do it. But then we don't really have this clearly documented sales process. Many people would say their sales process is inquiry, hi, how can I help you? Great, I'll do your proposal, send out the proposal or send out the product or go for the sale. And then they wonder why they don't convert so well. So we want to lay out this, and it's very clear what we're looking to do. And I'll come on to each, I'll talk in a bit more detail around this. But what I'm looking to do is get something consistent that I can start measuring where people come in. You see, that purpose of that top one, that 20 to 30 minute chat, one of the first things that we're looking to do is understand whether they're our sort of client. Are they able to afford what we're offering? Are they able to afford what you're offering? Do they match on values? Do you like them? And also, we're going to position on investment in this. And the reason for that is we want to make sure they can afford us, because if they can't, or there isn't a match on them, we want them out. We don't want to waste any more time on them. So in this, it's about building connection, but it's also about you deciding whether they're in or out. And then during this process, we're building something that's very important in order to get the final sale. But also, you're doing a proper fact find with them. You see, for that first one, people may not open up as much, but once they've had a couple of touch points from you, you'll get to the true root cause of their problems. And too often in sales, we force things. We go through far too quickly. And what's interesting here is people we measure from each stage. So we'll know, let's say you get 100 people at the top and you do 80 people in the 20 to 30 minute chat, and only 10 go through to the fact find. They don't show. Well, it may be in that 20 to 30 minute chat, you're not connecting well enough. So we know we need to work on that stage. Wherever you get a problem in your sales process, it is always related to stage before. Whenever you get an objection, I want you to think about the fact that you have given them the objection. Often people might object to you on price, and that might be how you've positioned it. Our investment, our prices. One, you might have said cost rather than investment. You might have said price rather than investment. But you would say, that's going to be about £80 to £200. And I hope that's not too expensive for most. and then people will hear that. Yeah, so that's a great question. What if you don't connect on a human level, but the project is a great fit? Any advice? I would encourage you to make sure that when you work with people, the larger you get, or the more confident you get in your business, more often you can say no. At first, we often take business from anyone, and I'd encourage you not to do that. I'd like you to think more about if you don't fit personally, that's actually okay, as long as they fit with the values of your business. Now, if you are the business and you don't fit with them, just be very careful. I think look at the values you have, and if you're not aligned on values, you are going to get problems later on. We've got a saying that I stick to totally, that it's actually the SH star sign, but let's say it's a poor prospect will make a poor client. So if someone's behaving poorly in your prospecting process, just say, hey, I'm not sure this is for me. And I've had clients who've turned down a very large deal, which they went back to the staff and said, hey, we turned that down because it wasn't right for you. They soared with the respect of their staff and their team. So I'd encourage you not to work with people who you don't get on with, or who you don't have a value fit with. At some stage, you'll want them out of your business and you won't enjoy dealing with them. So we want to make sure that we've got this repeatable sales process, of which we have documented how we're going to conduct those meetings. Your 20 to 30 minute, you'll know how you start it. You'll know some of the questions you ask. You'll know how you're closing it. Because the thing here, in your 20 and 30 minute chat, you are not selling your product. You are selling the fact find. You're going to tell them that there'll be a touch point. In your fact find, you are not selling your product. You're selling the quote or the call. You are only ever selling the next stage of your sales process. And we want to be very clear as to whether people qualify to go through it. So we want to make sure during this, we're positioning on investment several times. If you look in this example, for instance, by the time they see the quote, they will have had a position on investment twice. And that could be, look, this could be from £500 to £20,000. And they will give you an idea of where they sit. Well, not at £20,000, but they'll give you an idea of where they sit. Because normally what we have to watch here is in sales, you've got two wonderful people, right? You've got this wonderful prospect and yourself. But all of a sudden, the prospect, there's a salesman prospect dance, or salesperson prospect dance. And all of a sudden the prospect just becomes a liar. Hi, have you got any budget in mind? No budget in mind at all. And they just start not telling the truth, because there's this dance. I don't want to be sold to. Well, I want to sell to you. And then you're dancing around here. When people do say about the budget, I've got an architect that we've worked with, and they came around to my house, and they said to me, have you, my wife and I, have you got a budget in mind? I said, no, as long as it's right. I was doing this whole dance again with them. And he said, so if I said to you it was going to be £100,000, what would you do? And my wife went, oh, no way, it's not going to be that much. It's going to be more like this. And I looked at him, I said, you've just done what I've taught you. I said, that is ridiculous, right? How have you done that on me? Don't do it on me. But what we do is we do a silly price and just see how they do. It just draws people out on that. So you've got to get this repeatable sales process going on. And the key part of a repeatable sales process is to build know, like, and trust. Of know, like, and trust, can I ask, which one is the most important, do you think? Know, like, and trust. Which one is the most important? Trust, trust, trust. Yeah. I'm going to be a little controversial here when I can say the words. Trust. Or there was a lady there who said, oh, no, we've got to pick one of them if that's okay. Like, maybe. Yeah. So it is like. Let me explain why. If you do not like someone, you will never buy from them. If you do not like them, you will not go through to the fact find. And we will just not want to buy from them or deal with them. So the order that this goes is it goes like, know, trust. So the most important thing to establish first is like, and they will only get to the other stages. Yes, we've got to trust people, but you've got to focus on like. and connection. And I'll come on to how we build that through our sales process as we go through it. But how much do you focus on connection in your sales process? And I want to be clear here, it's not false connection. It's looking to connect with this person and to like them and or be likable, but don't be false. Stick to your values. It's not about being misleading. And during this, we want to be story-based selling. You see, stories are wonderful in selling because they engage people. We're taught from a very young age to tell story, to be told stories to. We have a bedtime story. People talk about stories with us, and we enjoy them because not only does it give us content, it gives us context. And the more stories that you will tell during your selling, the more they will trust you. And when I mean stories, I don't mean Little Red Riding Hood. You don't just tell a bedtime story or anything, but tell stories about people with similar experiences. You know, if you were selling, let's say, wheelchairs or mobility scooters, and they're talking, so oh, you're very similar to a customer that we had in the other day, and they had an issue with their legs, and they were a similar build to you. And what we found was this one is the perfect fit for them for these sorts of reasons, and they've now got it. And I saw them the other day in town, and they were ever so happy with it. But I tell a story around it. Now, what would be great if I then back that up with a testimonial from that client. But if you tell enough stories during this, people won't ask you to speak to your clients. Have you got any testimonials? What I'm looking to do is make sure I avoid the objection. Hello, have you done this sort of work before? If you've told stories, they never, ever question it. So just think about that story-based selling. But we've got to build know, like, and trust and connect early. So within connection, this is active listening as well. So within active listening, I'm going to step back one more on connection within this. I want us to think about the pace that people speak at and what they focus on. So when I look at this, we're focusing on whether people speak fast or they speak slow. We use something called a DISC on this, so DISC profiling, and that is when we have we look at whether people speak faster or slower, and whether they're focused on task or people, and we'll adjust the way that we talk to them based on those principles. So imagine if someone is fast and task focused. So speaking at this pace and they're saying, I want results, and they're super competitive and they're quite dominant in the meeting. I've got to talk back at the same pace and I've got to be dominant back to them. And I've got to stand up to them and say, well, those are the results you want. Well, this is the way you need to do it. I don't think I do. Yes, you do. And I've got to I've got to out-dominate them and talk at that sort of pace with them. And then if they come in and they talk, they're focused on people and they're talking fast. They're probably influential. You say, how's your weekend? I had a wonderful weekend, thank you. And they're smiley, and it's all they talk about themselves. They're the life of soul of the party, a lovely ego. I've got to make sure that I have a bit of fun with them, that I'm talking fast, I've got intonation, that I'm very smiley. So we've got to talk at those sort of paces. Then we might go into, I'd say, could be a typical, I shouldn't say that, I know we've got someone here, but a typical engineer or accountant. And they're going to be very process orientated. And they're going to talk perhaps at a slightly more monotone voice. I've given you an idea of a career. Obviously, all accountants and all engineers are not like this. But they will talk in a monotone voice and they'll talk at a slower rate and they'll want to understand every step of the process. So within that, I'm going to come back to them and talk at a similar level. And I'm going to talk to them about the results they get, facts, and also about how we go about achieving those results. And everything will be slowed down for them. And we get one more who'll be very people focused. And in order to talk to them, I'm going to talk slower with people, and I'm going to focus on the effect everything we're talking about will have on others. And then by doing that, you start tapping into the right things. So what will happen there? We've been to a party. I'm sure we've all been to a party, and you've either connected with someone, and they're very similar to you. So I'm looking to adjust the way I communicate to suit the person I'm talking to. It's really important to think about this. You see, we're taught in life a golden rule. Anyone remember what the golden rule is? Treat others. Anyone got that? Treat others the way you would like to be treated yourself. And it's total nonsense. You see, we should treat others how they'd like to be treated. And if we get our communication style wrong for someone, we definitely won't connect with them. And we definitely won't have them buying from us. And I want to be really clear on this. We do not change as people. We change our style to suit the person that we're talking to. And for me, that's more about respect, really. I'm going to talk your language, not my language. It's really important that we look at that. And again, looking at that connection aspect, we've got to make sure that we remain with our integrity and with our honesty throughout. I'd encourage you never, ever, ever lie in any environment, not the slightest little one. One thing about know, like, and trust, though, that people, well, the golden rule rather than encouragement, by the way, about lying, you're slipping into the over-promiser side. If you don't know the answer, say you don't know the answer. Don't bluff it. One thing around know, like, and trust, I want you to realize it happens before they even meet you. Before they meet you, they're working out whether they know, like, and trust you. What does your profiles look like on any social media? What does your website look like? Any reasons people go online? What would you say people go online and look at your company for? Any thoughts? Why would someone go online and look at you or your company? They've met you, but they then go online and look at it. What would your reason be, do you think? Just pop in the chat and say why people might go and find out if you're authentic. 5 reasons not to buy from you. Testimonials. Find out about their values. More about your company. Why not to buy from you? Yeah. Plenty there. The reason people go online is to find a reason not to buy from you. If you think when we go online and we look at reviews, and there's 5-star reviews and a 1-star review, often the user will click on the 1-star review. And they're looking for mismatches. They're looking for things that don't quite stack up. So we must be congruent with how we want to come across online as in person. We're very clear within our business that we want to make sure that one of our key values is having fun, enjoying ourselves. So we make sure that that comes all the way through what we're doing. My team maybe don't like my fun all the time in the office, but we want to enjoy ourselves, but we also want clients to know that that's the way we are. So if you do want to come in and let's say work with us and be not like that, well, we may not have that fit. We've got to enjoy life. So it's making sure that know, like, and trust, that you're congruent before. The absolute key to selling. This is the number one skill that you need to have in selling, is number 5, active listening. How much do you think you talk in a meeting versus your prospect? 100%, 5-star on Trustpilot so far. If anyone can find that gentleman, we can always go in and alter that for you. Please do not do that. Whatever you do not do that. He is brilliant. So right, it is important that there's my fun side, which people don't always find amusing, guys. So my apologies on that. So it definitely wouldn't be amusing, so don't do that. Number 1 skill in sales is listening. Any thoughts on what you listen with first? What do you listen with first, may I ask? Pop in the chat what you listen to with first. Any thoughts? Eyes, 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 eyes. Yeah, you listen with your eyes. If you think 58% of our language or our communication is through body language. So how often do you really focus and listen with your eyes? Listen with every little sinew, watching everything. And when you hear it through your eyes, how often you say, "Oh, are you okay?" Because they will say yes to you, but their eyes said no to you. They'll say possibly, but their face has said no. So at that stage, it's important to say, "Oh, thank you. So I hear the possibly, and can I just check, what is it about it that you don't like?" There's some techniques. So I'm going to push for a no in that environment. I'm going to push them for a no because it's much easier for us as humans to say no. No, it is. It's not that I don't like it. It's this. Okay, can we talk about that? So we listen with our eyes first. Everything we're saying, we're watching those non-verbal signals that we see. And at first it can be difficult, but you will learn more and more to see them as you start looking for them. I used to do what I told you about DISC and listening with my eyes. At the checkout, I'd work out what DISC profile they were just by the way they spoke with me. And now my role within 10 to 30 seconds of meeting you is to look exactly where you sit on that and change the way that I would communicate to you. What I'd like to make sure is you are just very clear on how you do it. And we run through that in detail as well. Next thing is, I want you to think about your heart. So you listen with your eyes and then your heart. I want you to really feel what they're saying. And this is where listening with intent to understand comes in. We want to really understand and feel what they're saying. And finally, we listen to our words that they say. So the words are the least important, but they do give a lot of meaning away. Listen for words like try, hope, possibly, non-committal words. I'll try and get back to you next Tuesday. That person is not coming back to you next Tuesday. Think about it. If I say to you, I'll try and come to your party tonight, if I was lucky enough to get an invite, you know I'm not coming. Listen for those non-committal words. Because we sometimes in sales kid ourselves. We think, oh yeah, no, that one's happening. That will go ahead. And it never does. But that's because we haven't really listened, or we haven't really challenged around the key points that they might have raised. I also, when you're listening, I want you to listen for certain words that they use. Do they talk in pictures? Do they talk in feelings? Do they talk in sounds? So what do I mean by that? Sometimes people say, what does that sound like? Sometimes they'll say, do you get the picture? And they may say, how does that feel? This is the final part of connection. And when you're listening to them, a nice way of saying it is, what's the weather like outside? If you just think about that and you think about how you describe the weather outside at the moment, doesn't necessarily help if you're around the country. But over here, it's pretty chilly today, and got a bit of a wind. And now some people will say it's gloomy, it's overcast. Some might say you can hear the whistling of the wind. Notice I'm using different sounds, one's a pictorial, one's a feeling. My wife and I, for instance, I'm a kinesthetic learner. I learn through feeling, so I use feeling words, love. My wife is a pictorial person. She's a visual learner. So it's summed up when a person coming to landscape our garden asked us a question, what would you like from the garden? And I said, I just want tranquility, peace, somewhere where I can relax. My wife's looking at me thinking, really? She wants beautiful colors, bold, bright, beautiful. And I'm thinking, really? That's what you want from a garden? My daughter, she has to touch everything to learn. But you see, if that person, landscape gardener, had spoken to me saying, look, what we're going to do is we're going to come in and get you a garden that's bright and beautiful and bold, I'd be thinking, well, I don't want that. It means nothing to me. The words don't connect to me. By the same token, if they sent me a video, I wouldn't want to look at it because it doesn't engage me. A picture doesn't engage me. It does if they send it to me on a piece of paper and I can touch it. So emails, correspondence to me doesn't work because it's on a screen. I can't touch it. So I have to print it and feel it. So if you are selling to me, we've got to make sure that my testimonials that you send me, that the packs come through to us. So if we're talking to someone and we're sending through some testimonials, or we're sending through a pack to them, it goes through the post, and there's a video that they can watch, and there are testimonials on paper that they can watch. The video will help the person with the auditory sound as well. So we cater for all three of them. But you need to adjust your words as well to it. So if we're talking to people and there's multiple people in the room, and one uses a lot of sound words, and one uses a lot of feeling words, and one uses a lot of picture words, ask them 3 times. How does that sound? How does that look? And how does that feel? They will only hear the one that's suitable to themselves. So just look at the way you actively listen. As a golden rule within it. Listen twice as much as you speak. And stay quiet. Don't interrupt them. What's really good is when people start talking, they start selling themselves. At the beginning of a sales meeting, I'll ask, why am I here? It's part of the pre-positioning. Why am I here and what outcome would you like? And they'll talk to me and I let them talk as long as they can. And I just make notes. Think about that when we go back to them and we say, oh yeah, you mentioned this, you mentioned that, you mentioned the other. They just think, wow, this person gets me. All I've actually done is listen to them and not interrupt them. But normally when people talk, they go deeper and deeper into the situation. And if they stop, well, we do the next one. These are some of the stats around DISC for you, areas that we would look at, just so you can see within that. The task focus and the faster on the dominance ones. And you will get a copy of these slides afterwards, just so you can see some of the things that we'd be looking to deliver when we're talking to people, and the way in which you need to change your approach to people like that. And we run through how you can see that within seconds of meeting someone. On that, often it's just how they come in. A chap might come in and say, hey, have a seat. Their dominance. And I wouldn't sit in the seat they asked me to sit in. And I'd make sure they're not sat when they come in. So that there's just little things that we would do as we go through. Someone was saying to me the other day, I just can't connect with someone. I keep talking about the weekend. And I said, well, they're a red person. They're not going to want to. It's going to be, how's your weekend? And I'll say, fine. When they ask you how your weekend is, please don't tell them about everything that you did, because they've glazed over. You've lost them. You just say, great, thanks. Right, onto the business. They'll also communicate to you when you send your emails to them. Red one, short and to the point. Yellow, orange, influencer, short and to the point, bit of fun. Conscientious, a lot of detail, the whole system, everything, chapter and verse. And the green one, same thing, but how it impacts on other people. So you've got to change the way you do it for other people. If I have a red and a blue in the same sales meeting, I'll make sure I send the summary version and the full version of a quote to them, so that each one can look at what they want. These are some of the words that you should listen out to within the learning styles, just so that you can see it. And you want to start using these words back to people as you go through it. This one's quite, I'd say, more technical. You'll connect very well with people if you look at the way in which I've said around the DISC side. But just think about changing this as well. You see within this, what we would do as well is you can see through the way they are on LinkedIn, you can pick up what DISC profile they are and what learning style they are within the LinkedIn environment. Or within social media or anything, or from an email they send you, you'll be able to tell what they are and you adjust your style without even having met them. So it's one just to keep working on. But after this, our sixth one, ask great questions. I want you to think about this. Whoever asks the questions is in control. Yeah, NLP uses VAC. I've had that come through to me. It's called VAC-D. The D stands for digital, as you could see. Within the LinkedIn environment, just a question there, what do you look for to determine their communication style? Brevity of post would be one thing. Whether they talk factual, if they're factual and brief, we're most likely to be looking at a D style. If they're more about bubbly and enthusiastic, a bit fun on LinkedIn, a bit more detail, we're most looking a bit more fun, enjoyment, and you may see pictures of them and they'll be wearing brighter colors normally. Those sorts of things, there'll be an I style. An S would be talking about other people, a bit more detail within it, and may not be quite so brightly dressed. And then the C would go into detail around a really long factual elements, but not talking about people, generally speaking. You could see it probably from their profile as well, just how they come across. There is some software that I will look to remember, but that will identify the DISC profile on LinkedIn. Might ask one of my colleagues who are in here just to see if they can Google identify DISC profile on LinkedIn and see what tool comes up. I will, otherwise we can put it out with the slides as well. I'll recall it then. The most important thing about questions is whoever asks the questions is in control. And you actually can't get to the root cause of a problem, unless you ask questions. But what questions do we ask and when do we ask them? Well, if you think back to your sales process, we have a structure for every single one. You identify the pain points that your customer may have. and what you can solve them. You could probably group most of your customers into between 2 to 5 pains that you can solve for them, or 2 to 5 aspirations that they're looking for. It doesn't always have to be pains. One client prefers it much more if we just say 2 areas that you can help, because some people feel wrong about pushing a pain point, and that's fine. We would, I guess, technically call it pain point selling and aspirational selling, but just think about where you can help them. And if it helps you more, just think about really understanding their problem. But a lot of the time when people talk about their problem, I call it taxi talk. It's kind of the talk we'd have in the taxi. Yeah, how are you? Yeah, all right, thanks. But you've got to take them down emotionally and dig a bit more. And these are really good ones around pain questions. Tell me more. And they'll tell you more. Okay, could you be a little bit more specific around it? How long has that been an issue? How much do you think that's cost you? How do you feel about it? And what have you tried to solve it? All of these things come down. So if I ask how long has that been a problem, and someone says, oh, years, as long as I can remember, I might say, oh, so it doesn't really sound like an issue to me. It sounds like a habit. But these are things I've learned as I've been going through it. But for each pain point that you identify, I would suggest you come up to five questions on each one, just so you could dig a bit more. But we do that before. And what do you do? Well, you go in and you have your script with you. That's it, just your questions. It's easier now, even on Zoom and Teams or virtually, because you can have it in front of you. Just making sure that you've got it. But I used to go in when it was in person. My team would laugh at me because I have brightly coloured pens that every night I'd write down my script and every question that I'd be asking under certain things. And I was proud that the prospect that I was going in to see had seen that I'd researched them. I'd make sure that they've actually seen me look at their LinkedIn profiles, because I want them to know that I care enough about them to prepare. And if I've got 5 questions on this, I don't mind saying, oh, right, and having a look at it. But you know what it gives me, especially in the early days? It gives me confidence. Confidence that I'm not going to think, oh, I know, I've got to ask a question. I can't remember the question. I can't remember the question. I can glance down and see a question and move forward with that question. Listen for those emotional words that are going through there: frustrated, worried, mad, upset, and don't back away from the question. I want you to think about being a challenger with these. There is a whole situation around challenger sales. It's a book, The Challenger Sale. We'll pop it in the chat as well, but very, very good. And a lot of people are nervous that if they challenge, people won't want to see them again. But you're an expert. You're an expert in what you do. You're talking to someone who isn't. So challenge their beliefs around it. Nice challenges that you might have. May I ask, why do you settle for that? If you're nervous about it, seek permission first before you challenge. Is it okay if I'm really open with you? And ask, why is it that you settle for this? Why is it that you haven't made any changes? And when they say, oh, I've just been so busy, well, is it really an issue? Or, well, I just don't get to my books. Around all of you, why is it that you put up with this pain? I just want you to think around that challenge question, but seek permission. Did you notice I said, is it okay if I'm open with you? I didn't say, is it okay if I'm honest with you? If you use the term honestly, and trust me, they are triggers in the sales environment. Your whole salesperson and prospect dance goes mental when that happens. Trust me. Every time someone says trust me, everyone says honestly. The first thing we think is, I mustn't trust you. I mustn't, right? Because we're suspicious. The thing about questions that I'd like you to remember is whoever asks the questions is in control. So whenever you get asked a question, make sure you ask a question back. Make sure you're going back to them with, thank you very much. You provide an answer and we ask a question back at the end of it. And your question is, I want to be geared towards getting a yes. So you ask me a question and I respond, and I may well say, does that make sense? Is that okay? Questions where they say yes, and then I can go straight back into my question. So I seize control back of the meeting. And when I showed you your sales process, the big thing there is I want you to be in control of your sales process at all times. That's the other thing. You are in control of who you work with, not them. And it'll be good for you to make that very clear to them. I'm very clear that when we're working, that we may not work with you, and we might not. I might not put you through to the next stage. And genuinely, honestly, trust me, I might not. Seriously, we wouldn't put you through to the next stage if we didn't think that we could help you. So we want to understand whether we can help you in order to put you through to the next stage. What you find then is people want to qualify for the next stage, but you need to be in control of your sales process. And you get that for each meeting by asking great questions. Same thing goes for objections. Firstly, if you get an objection, just always remember you've given it to them. I worked with someone who said to me that people aren't coming back to me about the proposal. They're either saying to me that it's too expensive, or they're just not coming back. And so I went back and said, well, you've got your sales process. Did you position on investment? Oh, no, I've stopped doing that. Okay, so the objection is it was too expensive, but you stopped positioning on investment. So where did you know to pitch the investment? Well, I didn't really. Well, let's go back to positioning on investment all the way through, because things can slip. The people who isn't coming back to you, that's an objection. The stage before has not been exciting enough, but also you haven't stole the stage following. So I'm going to send you a quote. And what I'd like to do is give you a call to make sure you've received that and then whether you've got any questions. I always like to, so we avoid ping pong tennis. I always like to make sure that's in the diary. Let's just pencil it in for Friday at this time. You're right on Zoom or on Teams? Right, we'll have 15 minutes then. So I'm making sure it is, I'll send them through an invite then. And then I'll say to them, look, I'll come back to you on that date. Look forward to talking to you. Now imagine they don't turn up. Well, I message them saying, hi, we agreed we would talk today. Something must have come up. I will keep trying you until I get hold of you, because I will stick to my word. And it doesn't feel like I'm chasing and chasing. But then when do we throw them out the sales cycle? If they stop replying, we come up with Chris Voss's magic question. This is from Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss. But if you Google Chris Voss magic question, it's a really nice thing to send through. Dear Tracy, can I assume you've given up on this project? Thanks, Kevin. I've had clients do that. They then send me photos saying they responded, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. It works a lot of the time because we push for a no. No, I haven't. I'm so sorry. I've just been busy. If they don't come back to it, close them out and get them out of your sales funnel. Just a little bit about questions with objections. When you get objections, just make sure that you always finish on a question. And there used to be this thing about questions, but about objections, but it's quite dated. Agree, point out, and then go on to something else, but it's very salesy. I like to give a definitive answer and then ask a question. So is that your best price? No. What would you like to take out? Can you do it any cheaper? Yes. What would you like to take out? But think about it. For all of them, we will be able to do a definitive question. Can you start any earlier? Yes or no. Ask a question. So just think about your definitive answer, ask a question. And it takes people away from it. They don't normally get objections handled that way. Just have a think about those objection handlings and that you've always given it to us. But then the penalty taker. I mentioned to you earlier when I spoke about my own sales philosophy. I will do whatever it takes, as I'll never let down my family and team. I picture myself as a penalty taker. It's my duty. My team work very hard, and I'm there out of respect for the prospect as well, to make sure that if we believe we can help them, that we will help them. So I need to practice my penalties. I'm there with the team watching, and I need to make sure that we help them or help the prospect. So practice your close. How many of you have a clear close for each stage and move it through? And there's a couple of closes that we can have. You have the either or close. So which of these solutions suits you? Is it this solution or that solution? So it's an either or. We're not looking for a no, or we've got the next steps. Now I'll come on to them as well. What's important though is before we go to the close, number one, don't rush it. Earlier on, you're always selling the next stage. And so you think about your close for each one. And bear in mind, if someone says, no, maybe I'll think about it, you need to discuss that, and I'll come on to that as well. But I want you to read the situation. This is where we need some emotional intelligence, where we're watching with our eyes. But you do a temperature check beforehand. How does this fit with what you had in mind? Can I ask what your thoughts are around this? I like, how does this fit? How does it look? Is it where you expected it to be approximately? So if I said to someone, how does this fit with what you had in mind? And they said, yeah, no, I like it. I'm not actually going to ask for the deal. I'm going to do what I call a soft close. And that's going to say next steps and booking in. So I'm going to say to them, well, I might say, is it okay if I talk through the next steps? Or I might say, if I'm nervous about it, or I might say, well, look, the next steps are, what will happen is we'll send you out an agreement. That would need to just be autographed and sent back to us, and then we'll get you started. So what I'd look to do is we'll have the agreement by Thursday to you, and then what we'll do is we'll book your first session, let's say on Tuesday. We'll book your first this on that, or the product will arrive on this time. I've never asked for a yes or a no. I've done the next steps and booked the next stage in. And you can do that close on every single close throughout your sales process. The either or close is good as well. You could say something along the line as, how does that solution, solution suit you, or would you like some more information? Very odd to go for a direct, does that suit you? It's the or, would you like some more information? That gives you the option to continue. So with this, just look out for your temperature check as we go through it. Make sure you practice your close. It is so important, like that penalty taker, it's practiced over and over again, so it just comes out smoothly. And when I mean practice out loud. A presentation coach by the name Paul Ryan helped me with that. It was advice he gave me around speaking. He said, make sure you talk out loud, because actors do it, so the words settle. And the more you say it out loud, the better it will be. I think my neighbours and people who I must walk along by the canal must think I'm crazy, because I'm there with headphones and talking to myself, saying things over and over again onto a voice memo that I can then listen back to in the car. So it goes in as I speak out, and then I listen back to it. But it helps. You can then also use that to build your scripts, because you can use some AI just to transcribe it for you. But please do practice your closes. And as a bonus, because I like number 8, he says confidently as he looks at, sales is a profession. It really is. And never practice on prospects. It's disrespectful. It really is. I liken it to a doctor or a surgeon that you might go and see, and they decide to practice on you. I don't think we'd be overly impressed. But why would we practice on people who want our services? I do believe that is disrespectful. So practice in front of the mirrors. Use role playing within it. Get a team, a partner that you can just practice with. They can pretend to be a prospect. They can throw objections at you. But we actually don't need a huge amount of leads in business. And we focus so hard on marketing, and marketing is vitally important. But before I ever focus on marketing with people, I want to know that they've got a repeatable sales process, that they have the right beliefs, that they want to be a problem solver, that they will engage emotionally, that they will challenge, that they have closed. Because once that happens, we won't waste money elsewhere in the business. The same thing goes if you drive traffic to your website. We need to make sure your website is working well, whether you've got the closers in there, whether you're connecting emotionally on your website. Sometimes people just put pictures of in travel, they won't put a picture of a beach, they'll put a picture of a couple walking down the beach, because it's the couple that emotionally engages you. If you sell software, don't put a picture of the software, put a picture of people using it. Atlassian are very good at this. They sell software, but so much of it has people in it to engage you emotionally as we go through it. So never practice on prospects. It is the golden rule. Now, it would be remiss of me not to talk about, you might still have a problem. You might be looking to perfect your sales to another level and may not have the confidence quite that you would like to go forward on it. So I definitely will not be a product pusher, but I will say to you, we've got this wonderful course coming up. If you do feel like you'd like to take your sales to another level. And the biggest thing that for me is that I say is you've got to fall in love with sales. And I think if you do that, your growth of your business will take care of itself. So we will be sending you some information out on that. But from me today, please, anything in the questions at all, please just pop anything in. I will be here for 5 minutes to just answer anything if anybody would like to. Oh, thank you very much, Jen. That's very kind of you. So on there. So I'll take some questions, but please feel free to jump off if you would like on that. So